Hey, that's
It's
you.
me. It's me. Okay, so we're going to do share screen, and that's the one we want.
Yeah,
Sure.
actually, what I'd like at first, I've got three things. But now can I go back and forth between the things at the bottom? Because I put them on. No, not stop share. I want the share on.
Okay, I know, but let's see how.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, yes, I
oh,
think so.
I can
This
do-
one, movies and TV, is what
Yes.
you wanted first?
No, I have like the fifth slide that, and I forgot to even turn it on, but I know I know I can.
You want to start with the fifth slide?
No, the video. That's the fifth slide.
Oh, but okay,
Yes,
quick time not available. What does that mean?
it means that it won't do it.
Okay, but
Try
you had,
it.
no, it's not doing it.
Yeah.
But you said that you had it on the bottom.
I
So
do.
let's do escape. Hold on.
Escape will go, okay.
And then this was the movie,
I
right?
think so, yes.
Okay,
Let's
and we
just
can
try.
do this
Can
full
you do
screen.
the?
Yeah, I'm gonna
click on
play it right now.
It's fine.
Voilà le guide.
Is that too loud?
La personne qui va m'ouvrir la tombe de Mordechai et Esther.
Is that too loud or no?
Merci.
We can
Okay.
turn it down.
Okay, so when you want to leave the full screen, just click escape. Nope. Yeah, there we go.
No?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, exactly. Okay, so we're gonna start then. I just want to put from this here, because it has the map of Iran, which is, because in the beginning, I'm not gonna do this. No.
Whoever's in the committee is old.
Maybe it's this, wait.
No.
One moment. Oh, it's this one here, I don't know what that is. There we go. I want to
Okay.
start there. Okay,
Perfect. Okay, perfect.
okay.
So you have somebody watching, Emmanuel Meller, sorry. He might be the only one that's on. That's
Whatever it is,
okay.
listen.
Yeah, but he's on Zoom.
Okay,
And I want to just go back into Zoom for a second because I want it to be everybody. There we go. We're going to minimize. Okay.
I got a black.
You
square
don't,
here. What's going on?
you don't see our screen?
I see you and I see the mausoleum of Esther and Mordechai.
Do you see a map of Iran?
A what? A map of
You see
Iran?
a map of Iran? Okay, so that's exactly what.
that's, we're gonna start right there.
Right, that's where he's gonna start. It's all screen, it's a lot of screen sharing, okay?
Okay.
Okay, but you'll hear him talk when he talks. The computer's right
Can
next
you
to
hear
him.
me?
I've got a black square on top. I don't understand why that was.
Oh, that's just us, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
please
no,
use this window. Let's see, how do I get rid of that? Oh, it's gone. Do
No,
you
it's
still
not.
see it? No, it's
I
not
still-
gone.
It's not gone.
How do I get rid of that?
I don't know.
Don't worry
How
about
about
it.
how about I leave and come back again? I'm going to leave and restart again.
Okay, I don't know if it's us or you, but this, I see it. Please move this window, but I don't know how to move it. It's not working. All right, he's gonna come back on.
Okay.
All right, don't worry about it. It's all good.
I'm just a Harold. My father was Mr. Rook. I'm just a simple. And every day I know I'm simple.
No, still there. Okay.
You are watching on Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see you. Thank God.
Oh, my God.
It's a miracle, right?
Yes, but I'm not,
Almost like
my
Purim.
goal is that you see and you can see the map of Iran, right?
No, remember, I see the mausoleum of Esther and Mordechai. That's it. Supposed mausoleum.
Well, who knows what's supposed? Maybe the
I don't
wall
know.
is supposed too.
I'd like to see a big sign that says Mausoleum of Mordechai and Esther on top.
You
but I don't
will.
see that.
You will, I promise you, okay?
Okay. I remember hearing that Mordechai and Esther went back with Ezra and Nehemiah to Israel, so.
Well,
strange to think that they
there's
have a
another
mausoleum.
interesting story which the Iranians tell, and I'm going to tell it. The going back to Eretz Israel is Mordechai, whether Esther, the question is, did she have children?
Don't know. Well, I thought Cyrus or Darius or one of them was a
You got
son
it.
or grandson or
And
something.
there is, well, I'm going to say all this later, so why should I say it now? I'm going to bore people.
All right, so hold off and do it in your
Praise
order.
the Lord,
please.
praise it, be she.
It's a little too loud.
How you doing? I'm about to take a trip to Iran with a bunch of people. We're going to go to Esther and Mordechai land. And I'm going to tell people how I slept with Esther and Mordechai. It's true. I'll talk to you later. Of course. Bye-bye. This guy was born who just called in Tehran, purely by coincidence.
Well, we have another Iranian as far as skill.
This black thing is here.
And they were the first exposed to rice.
Two participants.
They exposed the rice and the physical rice. And I spoke to the rabbi. Oh, you are from there? Because he explained it in that. Why was sitting separate?
It's such a tiny gap. When you do it, it's a very just paper sticks. So you do it's funny.
The difference is the dough is an established painting. You're saying the paint them on the other side. Here, it's not an established painting. The whole process takes 15 minutes. Especially, I'm telling you, most people. We realize that each one really gets whatever you interact with. Those that across the street from that, right? Rhode Museum, which is contemporary art. Also, contemporary art. We were able to involve them.
Okay, guys.
We're gonna get a guided tour to Iran this morning. We're gonna meet Mordechai and Esther's hangout.
Yeah, we're eventually going to do this towards the end. And one of the things I was there twice, once in 77 and 78, and I slept over with them. And it was nice accommodations on the floor. But that's okay. I'm not complaining. No, I'm a little guy. You know, I do everything behind the scenes. I know his son, who we call him Baby Shaw, in Washington. I know him very well.
He came for treatment with Sloan Kettering.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, we abandoned him like we abandoned so many people. Shame on us. That's that's part of the future. Is he going to take over? I can only say that anything is possible. As we know, a few weeks ago, we had certain views of Putin. and we had certain views of Ukraine, and overnight everything changed. And we knew basically that NATO was finished. Because and no one was, and Trump did his damnedest to try to get Angela Merkel to give 2%, of which the Germans had signed on to, for to improve their military. Nothing could be done. So what happens in the end? Once Putin, their beloved Putin, and the Germans are in bed with the Russians like you can't imagine. Once Putin invaded Ukraine, they right away, Scholz, who is the Chancellor of Germany, we're going to modernize our military. We're going to do the 2%. You can't predict when these happen. So your question about will the Shah's son ever take over? Let me just say the following. I'm going to give a very Persian answer. He's a very nice guy. The Shah's son, baby Shah.
Baby Sean, his mother is an American.
His mother is an Azerbaijani, the Shah of Iran. Yeah, the Azeris and the Persians are completely intermarried. The Azeris are Turks. And Azerbaijan, let me see if I can move this. This is a map of Iran. Up here where the what do you call it? There's up in the northwestern area. This is Iranian Azerbaijan. That's independent Azerbaijan. They're the same people. There are 3 times as many Azeris in Azeri Turks, that's what they are, in Iran than there are in independent Azerbaijan up here. And just to show you how completely married, the father of the Führer of Iran, the guy who, just put it on mute, whatever. The father of the Grand Ayatollah, who the best translation of Supreme Leader in Rahbar, it's in Persian, is Führer, because he has the same power that Hitler had. So again, we don't have but his father is Azeri. And that's, he spoke Azeri and Persian from birth. One is Persian, which is Indo-European language. It's related to Latin and to Greek and to the Slavic languages. And Turkish is not at all. Turkish is from what is today Central Asia. You see on the map, there's a country above Iran called Turkmenistan, right next to the blue on the right. That whole area, and the languages all the way over to Japan have the same grammar. They're yes and no related. You think of Turkish is from Turkey, but Turkish is originally the grammar of the language. It's like Mongolian. And this sounds way out there, but that's where the Turks are supposedly originally from. Anyway, why are we going to be talking about Iran today? And that's because in a few days, we have Purim, and Purim took place in Iran. And so I thought it would maybe be a good idea to talk about how the Iranians, the Persians, Iran and Persian is the same thing.
Right.
The word Iran in Persian is the land of the Aryans. Aryan, Iran, you can hear, it sounds the same. And the Aryans, when we think of Aryans, we think of Hitler and all that. No, what Hitler did was take a title, a people that existed in ancient times, which were between what is today northern India and Iran, and he created this thing. Look, the Nazi cross, the thing that scares the you-know-what out of us. That was an ancient Aryan symbol for light. And for them, I can tell you again, I grew up in Philadelphia and there were buildings, old buildings, which had patterns of these crosses, and they were built long before the Nazis. So things change their meaning. All of us are at the age when we were little, we knew that Iran was a good country. Yeah, but it isn't today. And God willing, it will be in the future. And maybe because Americans are bowing down to every demand that the Iranians are making, is even taking the leftist Israelis and saying, we're on our own. Will Israel be able to take care of this? I am not a military guy, but as you know, I mean, I worked at the Pentagon for so many years.
Yes.
And I have to rely on people who know military things. The answer is, if Israel is pushed into the corner and chooses to act, from what I understand, and from people who know this much better than I, Israel can do it. And so maybe this administration in a weird way is a blessing. Why? Because it's going to make sure that Israel has no alternative but to rely on its own. Who's saying, listen, we can't know the future. Anyway, I want to take a little trip for the beginning. We're going to take a little trip. There's even a little movie here of Esther and Mordechai. Please understand what Iran is. It is, I'm going to try to move this around. You can, if you see them on the map of Iran, Iran is an empire, literally an empire. Many, many people live there. People say, oh, what's the language of Iran? It's Persian. Well, their point is there's so many languages in Iran and so many different peoples in Iran that you need one language to unite everybody. And back in the time of Esther and Mordechai, the international, it's called lingua franca, the language that everybody wrote in and spoke to each other in when you got so many nations. Remember, the book of Esther says there are 127 nations. And the language was Aramaic, the language basically of the Talmud. And so you need a lingua franca, a language which everybody can communicate in, to write in and all, and that was Aramaic. And in Iran today, it's Persian. Where is Persia? Persian comes from the word Fars. Fars, which really is Pars, but Arabs can't say P, and so right around here where I'm playing with the thing, you can see it's across, you see the word Kuwait, it's across from here. This is where Shoshana Bira is in that area. This is where the capital of the empire was in the time of the book of Esther, not Tehran. Tehran is only the capital since around 1800. 200, we got to remember, for me, when I think about where we are, we're in the middle of the 20th century. We're not, we're 21st century, I know. But we're getting older, but we know what we know. Now, in the book of Esther, it says there were 127 nations from Rhode. Rhode means India, and you see in the lower right, Rhode, Pakistan and India were really they are one cultural area. It's this area here on the lower right part of the screen, until Kush. Where is Kush? Kush is way, way off the map to the left and below. That is Ethiopia. That's a long, big empire. And you can imagine, again, look at all the people there. Now, this empire already existed at least 500 years before Esther and Mordechai and all these things. Now, what does it say after it explains Iran? It says Vidatehem Shonot. And whatever this word dat means, which in modern Hebrew means religion, it never until the 19th century had that meaning. Dat means their series of laws were different. Each of these nations had different laws, but they had a super control by Iran, by this area here, which was really called Pars. The word Persian is from this area. This was the area that ruled all the way from India, all the way off the map to Ethiopia. What does that tell you? One huge area with different rules. In this place, you did it this way and that. And the super empire was kept together by the word Shah. Shah is a corruption, shall we say, because Persian is what is called in an Indo-European language. The word in Hebrew, Kesar, and we would say Caesar in English. the original pronunciation of the C in Latin is K, salud. How do you, anybody know how you say a fine? I fine you $3,000 for sitting with your elbow on the chair next to you. I mean, it doesn't matter, but a fine. What's the Hebrew word for fine? Knas. Now watch this. Knas, we have this English word census, right? Now the C is Latin, so it's not census, it's census. Us is a Latin ending. It doesn't matter. You're left with knas. It's a fun. No one wanted to be in a census. Why? Why do you want to tell the government anything? All they do is create problems. Ronald Reagan was right. He said, if someone says, hi, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help you, run as far as you can away from the government. What does it say in the Talmud? Or it's actually in Pirkei Avot, in the ethics of our fathers. You know, stay away from the government. Stay away from government. It's never a positive thing. Which is why we were really, you know, in Fiddler on the Roof, you remember, is there a blessing for the czar? So may the czar, God keep the czar far, far away from us. And it's income tax time here. And all of us are worried, even if we're totally honest. What can these people do? Okay. Now, Iran is an empire. Someone told me that I should try to take questions only at the end because I interrupt my train of thought, which is naturally interrupted anyway all the time. That's my ADD, whatever. No, see, I just did. Census. Stay away from, oh yeah. We all have this fear, whatever, we'll leave it. Now, what did they do? They know how to culturally assimilate people. They were taken over by the Arabs when the Arabs came out of Arabia with whatever Islam is. And the original Islam is nothing more than Monophysite Christianity. The word Muhammad was really in Old Arabic a title for Jesus. One who is beloved by God. He was nothing more than a leader. He was not part of God. And there was a big fight between, and most of, at least Western Iran was Christian, the Byzantines and all that, but they believed in the Trinity. And the people who believed, no, Jesus was just a great leader, got angry. And they are the beginnings of Islam. And Islam is passionate about monotheism. There's only one God. And he doesn't, I'm quoting from the Quran in English, he doesn't procreate is the word, mulid. He cannot father, he does not cannot. He doesn't father, and nothing is ever born to him. And where do we learn this? If anybody's ever been up on the Temple Mount to the Dome of the Rock, not the other mosque, the Dome of the Rock, it says there, it's a, if you'll excuse me to use a politer term, it's up yours to the Byzantines. Because God is only one nature. He doesn't father, and he, for them, Jesus, the beloved of God, which is Chemed in Hebrew, Hamad in Arabic, is, and this is all modern research, and we can prove it, and this is not the topic of today, but when the Arabs came out and took over Iran, which was in around the 600s CE, or excuse me, it's about 636, 37. Iran was an empire by then for 1100 years. A very strong sense of itself. It hated the Arabs, the nomads. The word Arab and Arabi in Arabic really meant nomads. There was no such thing as Arab nationalism until the Christians invented it in the 19th century. I know everything that I can give a lecture on pretty much of all these things that I'm throwing out. The Christians invented Arab nationalism because they wanted to be equal, just like the Jews in Russia became passionate communists in the 20s and 30s. Why? We're not prepared to convert to Christianity. But if they leave Christianity and we leave Judaism, then we're all equal now as the Soviet man. Homo Sovieticus in Latin. The homo meaning not the English word, the Latin word, which means man, Sovieticus, Soviet. Of course, it doesn't work that way in reality. Now the Russians, instead of hating us before communism because we killed God, meaning Jesus for them, they hate us because we're cosmopolitans and bourgeois. What's the word? Bourgeois. Oh yeah, we're international connections and all that. What remains the same is I hate the Jews, and they still hate the Christians the same way because the Christians mean today the Trinity. Now, bringing this back to Iran, they were taken over by these nomads, lizard eaters, rat eaters. This is how the Iranians saw this. So what did they do? And this is what they try to do with everybody. Oh, come in and rule us. It took them 300 years to develop. Remember, an empire has a very strong sense of what it is. And so they come. Oh, it's all right. You come in and rule us. Since we know how to rule, we'll tell you how to do it. We'll make you rich, whatever. Just do it our way. And that's how the Persians do it. That's how the Chinese do it. The closeness of Iran and China historically is unbelievable. Anything to think about today? I have a friend who did a PhD on 16th century Chinese-Iranian relations, which were very close. What do they got in common? The hatred of the nomads. What do the nomads do? They come in and destroy your culture. The nomads being, in this case, the Arabs on Western Iran. On Eastern Iran and North are the Turks and the Mongolians. And both China and Iran hated these people. But both of them developed, oh, come in, please rule us, no problem. Just do it our way. We'll make you rich. Accept our culture. Become Hellenized, if you wish, from a Jewish point of view. The story of Hanukkah, it's really a revolt against the Hellenized Jews because they were the ones bringing in idols and things like this to the temple. That we're Jews. We fought against ourselves. Anyway, Iran versus Islam, and where do we Jews fit in? This new religion, Islam, comes in, and let's say it was at first Sunni, doesn't matter, we're not going to go into that. And it was Sunni, and then it, in the 1500s, it became Shiite. Why? What is Shiism? I'm not going to go into the religion, into how they understand the world, but all the surrounding countries were ruled by Turkish Sunnis. Iran was also before. Everybody was ruled by the Turks, but Muslims, Sunnis. So Iran all of a sudden develops this identity, a Shiite identity. Why? Because it's a way of protecting Iran against all of the surrounding areas, which was all these other Sunni Turks. Where do we Jews fit in? Because that's really, now watch this. Shiism, you've all heard in India, the concept of an untouchable, right? Because whatever, we're shaking hands. I touch you, and you know I'm an untouchable. The first thing you do, forget the woman-man thing here, and from our point of view. I touch you, and I'm untouchable. I make you unclean. Treif. Tameh is the real word here. Tum'ah. I pass tum'ah. Now, in Shiism, again, being that it has so much Iranian culture, and Indian and Iranian culture have the same origins. And so the business of tum'ah, of religious uncleanliness, let's say, is deeply embedded in Iran, okay? I'm a Jew, and there's another Jew here. I'm holding something in my hand. If I give it to the other person, he becomes unclean, tameh, which means, I'll tell you, even under the Shah, people, Jews, who, for example, studied in public schools, if it was raining outside, the Jewish kids had to come in, stand in the corner, because the water, just like liquids, ma'avirim, they transfer tum'ah. And so the Jews had to dry off, because maybe if they walked by and they dropped it, or they were sweaty, whatever, they were going to make everybody else come in. Even under the Shah, it was like this. That doesn't mean the Shah was that way. But that's the culture of the people. We Jews have been living in Iran since before the Book of Esther, whenever that was, and we're not exactly sure. But the culture in Esther, when I read the Megillah, it's so comfortable to me. Why? Because it's the culture of Iran, the whole thing with the Achashverosh. So he everything he does is the word. That's what matters. He's the Shah. Shah is Caesar or Tsar. All these words, Tsar, in the Russian word, is also comes from the same root, which is an all-powerful leader, because all these languages are related. What happens with us Jews? The word that is usually translated in Persian as foreigner, usually is khariji. It comes from Arabic, kharij. A J in Arabic is a G in Hebrew. Khareg, choreg. What does choreg mean in Hebrew? We have two. Something out of the normal, out of the ordinary. Charig. Yeah, something out of the ordinary. In Arabic, kharij means outside. If you're in Israel and you're driving and you get off from a highway, you'll see a sign which says in Yitzia, exit in the middle. It invariably will say khuruj, an exit, one who has exited from. You can see that all these words, kharij, outside, different, weird, all these come from the same root. Shoneh, but with a negative as a rule. Yeah, kind of different. But not so sure about you. It's not that you just are left-handed and you eat with something odd. Okay. When I lived in Iran, I was trying to figure out from these Shiites. Okay, Khariji being a foreigner, are the Jews, a Shiite who immigrates to Iran within a generation is Iranian, because he's a Shiite, and the identity really comes from religion, as it does for us, whether we like it or not. Now, my question was, are the Jews who have been living there longer than the guy whose ancestors 2 generations ago just immigrated to Iran and was completely accepted because he's a Shiite from some other place, are the Jews Khariji or not? What? Because they're different from, they're not Shiites. And why did I ask the question? I wanted to see Iranians together discussing it to try to figure out how they see us. And there were 2 answers. No, they are Iranian, but most of them were perplexed. Oh my God, they're not real Iranians because they're Jews, even though they've been here for 2,700, 2,600 years. But yet the guy who came from who knows where, who's a Shiite in 1 generation, he is accepted as an Iranian. Now, there's no answer to this question except that Jews are different, Jews are outside, Jews are a problem. Here we go back to what it says in the book of Esther. The Jews are unlike everybody else. Haman tells they don't follow your laws. And we've had this over and over again in other places. And the story, I'm telling you, if you read Iranian short stories, the fancifulness and this happens to happen to the right men and all that, that's exactly the way the Iranian mind works. The book is so Iranian. How do the Jews who live in Iran, even those who are still there today, how do they look at the Iranians? Now there's a Sabra phrase, which means honor him but suspect him. That suspect. Well, they're different words and they're different meanings. So, chabdel, chashel, but the Iranian Jews vis-a-vis the Goyim, and what are the Goyim for them? Not Christians, but Muslims. Here's the phrase that whether they know Hebrew or not that I heard over and over again from Jews all over Iran. En emunah b'goyim. There's no faith in the Goyim. Afilu b'tever, if even in the grave, le'arboim shana, for 40 years. Never trust the Goy. Why? Because you know that they can be friends and all that, but it's all like the icing on the cake. The icing on the cake could look beautiful and the cake could be rotten inside. And these are secular, it doesn't matter whether the Jews are religious or not. Today, most Iranian Jews are religious. Because that's the only thing that's allowed, whatever, in Iran by the government. Anyway, and I should know that under the Shiites, especially in Iran, the amount of forced conversion of Jews is huge. And we probably lost about 90% of our people who lived under Iranian rule, who are today of Shiite or the Shiites. And here's an interesting thing. Life is so difficult, and the amount of Iranians, especially when they leave Iran, who just want to leave Islam, most of them, a very large, and I know what I'm talking about here. This is not any type of speculation. Many of them leave Islam and convert to Christianity. Some of them would like to convert to something else, but it ain't so easy. And some of them want to return home to what we are, because they know their ancestors are originally Jews. Because the Goyim would say that it's the Iranians. We know that your great grandfather, nobody forgets in the Middle East anything. Your great grandfather was a Jew. So you are not, even though to convert to Islam is a very easy thing. Do you guys want to do it? We can all do it. It's one sentence 3 times. You say that in Arabic, there is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his prophet. Allah is nothing more than Eloha in Hebrew. Same word. Every time in Arabic, almost always in Hebrew and O. In the word salam, shalom, they mean different things, believe me. But salam, shalom, o. Alim is the word olam, one of the words for world. Arabic and Hebrew, again, I think whatever when I said there was one language. Anyway, what I'd like to do is take a little tour now here, if I can figure out how to do this. It's on the bottom. Let's see. We're going to take a little tour of Esther and Mordechai. I want to go up to the beginning. Whoever is listening on Zoom, can you now see the screen? I've changed. Hello? I think they gave up. Whatever. Okay. Because I can't hear. I hear no response, so I don't know. Here we have the mausoleum of Esther and Mordechai and Hamadan, Iran. By the way, there are two.
Yes, we can see.
And O. And they are completely different. The Iranians don't even hear them the same. We see them. So here, Hamadan. O. And then there's another sound, O. There's O and O. The Iranians hear things differently than we do. Every language hears things differently. So you saw the map of Iran before, and this is now where I'm trying to, here, Hamadan is right around here. We're going to take, good morning. Okay, now, and that is right above where Shoshana Bira area was. Now, the city of Hamadan was once the capital of Media. The Medes were one of the ancient peoples who ruled Iran. Harasu Madai, exactly. Paras being Persian, Madai are the Medes. It was the capital. And it was captured by Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great is called Mashiach in the book of Isaiah. What is Mashiach? That's the best translation. Mashiach Limshoach in Hebrew, not Limshoach, which is the pull, whatever, but Limshoach with a height. But that's because people refuse to pronounce Hebrew the way it's supposed to be. Anyway, it's anointed. You have oil on your head and all that. I'm not a good anointer. I don't know this. Rabbi Green can explain this better than I. Anyway, what happens? And by the way, if you notice, the British, when we haven't in all of our lifetimes, we were tiny when Queen Elizabeth became queen. But the whole ceremony of how they do it is from the Tanakh. You know, it's the King of David, how King David was done, how it was all. That's how they've done it. Anyway, what do we have here? So this was captured by Cyrus the Great, who made his summer capital. What is a summer capital and a winter capital? We all live in a world of air conditioning, which is about the age about 1940s or something like that. Bullock, you're going to know this better because you know this sort of stuff. I don't. What happens? Once you got air conditioning, what you needed, you could do anything. You can work, you can do normal things. And what happened in the past? People weren't stupid. They managed to live in whatever atmosphere, whatever place they did. So what do we have? Where is it cooler when it's hot?
Mountains.
The mountains. And so the area where Hamadan is summer residence. It's in a mountainous area. We talk about these nomads, and there are still nomadic tribes in what is Israel today. And where do you think their winter pastures are, and where are their summer? Winter, it's colder in the mountains, so you come down. In the summer, it's hotter, so you go up in the mountains. People were enormously, that was the air conditioning system, if you wish. And why are the Arab robes so flowing? Because you go like this, and you're getting air from outside and cooling you off. People are ingenious. It's amazing. Anyway, here we are in the city of Hamadan is where Esther and Mordechai are buried. This is the mausoleum we're going to see now of Esther and Mordechai. That is this. Does anybody know anybody in this picture?
Is that you?
You got it. This guy here. I mean, I was dark and all that, but all of us were different colors when we grew up. Okay. Okay, now wait a minute. There, okay. Now, if I can do this correctly, we will see. No. That's definitely no. Maybe this is it. We're now going, this little 2.5, we're going to take a tour of this. It's a movie. It's 2.5 minutes. It is in French. I'll translate because the people who filmed this were French. And the tour guide, if you wish, is this guy. And he's Jewish. And he controls this. We're going to figure out all sorts of interesting little things here. Here we are. Okay. Let's see if I can do this.
Merci. Je suis venu de France que pour ça.
I really thank you so much. This is the guy who watched. Look how you're going to have to get in.
Ouais, l'entrée.
Look at the entry. Can you see her, guys? I'm sorry if I'm standing in your way. Okay. Now you notice.
Vous êtes juif aussi?
Are you Jewish? Yes. You have to bend down to get in. Why is it that way in so many
On est
places?
sûr que là, c'est la tombe de Mordechai et Esther?
Because you're honored. What?
Vous avez quelques explications à me donner sur la tombe?
Are you responsible for taking care of the mausoleum, the tomb? He said, yes. How he knows French is beyond me. He's a local Jew.
No video.
All I know is that she's not telling us. When was it built? I don't know. We don't know. We're gonna see the documents to that too. You see how, look at what he's gotta do to get in. This is all preventing bad guys from doing things to it. Destroy it.
Je ne vous cache pas que je suis tout excité.
See the rugs? Everything in Iran is rugs. We put our art on the wall, they put their art on the floor.
C'est exceptionnel.
On Zoom, we're not seeing any video.
La porte elle est immense. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, whatever.
Merci.
Sit yourself down, please, or whatever.
Wow. J'ai envie de pleurer tellement que c'est.
Well, you can see the English Estel,
Voici
the
Estelle.
three lane. This one is Estel, the other one is Mordechai.
No video on Zoom.
Everywhere.
Wow.
There's no video on Zoom.
Exceptionnel. Mordechai Tzadik.
No video on Zoom.
That's your
Exceptionnel.
question.
Des frissons, des frissons.
People believe it is what matters.
C'est bien.
No video on Zoom.
We're not seeing or hearing anything on Zoom.
I'm sorry, that was it. I'm sorry, you said you're not seeing, I'm sorry. It was basically the pictures we saw were just a little tour of the whole thing. I'm going to now put, if I can figure out how to do this, here, the PowerPoint. Okay, we're going to just, what we saw inside. This is, again, 20, oh, it's not 20, it's 77, 70. You've recognized this guy already. You see the rugs, it's very Iranian. This sort of, it's called an Ivan. It's this arch, this Persian arch. These things are gorgeous. There's a Torah there. I can't recognize myself anymore for some reason. My whole image of myself was always dark and black hair and all that, but I look a little different today. Yeah. Okay, now, someone mentioned who owns this. And it's a very interesting, this, the Shah's government took this up. And the community, the Jewish community of Iran, by the time the Shah, whatever the year it says here, this is, why it's in French is beyond me, but it is in the year 1347. What is the year 1347? It is the year, it is there's the Muslim calendar, and then there's the Persian understanding of the Muslim calendar. Once they became Muslims, they did the calendar from what is called the Hijrah, with the Hay, the Hagil. When Muhammad supposedly, if he existed, went from Mecca, a place which didn't exist at the time of the beginnings of Islam, to Medina, which did exist, and they're called immigrants. He immigrated and that's it. So when this letter was issued, and today we are, it's about 60 years ago, a little more. And so that's when this letter was, and when it's the letter that is in the Hebrew University library. And I'm trying to go to the next, because this is in English. The archives, however, do include evidence that the purchase of the grounds of the tomb was indeed completed with the approval arriving, that means we own it, the Jews, on January 18th, whatever, 1970. It appears that the land was transferred into the hands of the Jewish community. Though it is difficult to say for certain because there is no more documentation after this. Sorry? Here we have right here, 1970. We don't know. But here is, to me, one of the most interesting things. I went to Columbia, and right, really, a few blocks walk away is the Jewish Theological Seminary. I have to be careful how I say this, because I sometimes confuse words. And they have a Haggadah. I always write Haggadah, but it's not a Haggadah. I got it, but it's written here. It's a Megillah, the book of Esther. And there is a very graphic picture in that. The question is, did Esther have children? And if so, who were they and what happened to them? She was married to Xerxes, which is Achashverosh. And what we know, and this is from the Rabbi of Ol Sameach in Israel, and it is what the Iranian Jews all believe, which is why in the Megillah, they had the picture of Esther giving birth to Darius. She had a son, Darius, who became King Darius II. She brought him up to be favorable to the Jews, and he eventually lifted the ban about building the Bet HaMikdash, which led to the building of the Second Temple. Now, there is, as I mentioned, forget the Haggadah, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I make many, many mistakes in life. And so there is, the Persian Jews believe that the guy, the great king that allowed the Jews to rebuild the Bet HaMikdash and then go back, and then go back, is the descendant of Queen Esther. Is there any, if you want historical evidence for this? I have no idea. I also don't know Yiddish, but I understand that Ichves really means, in this case, I don't know, instead of I know. No, people say Ichves.
Ichves means I know.
I know. I understand that. But what I'm saying is people use it like, how am I supposed to know? You're right, but you know, in the neighborhood where I grew up, they had the word something was really great. That's bad. So that's bad means it's good. Look, we have the word sagenaho. What is this? If someone who's blind, he's called one who can see light and all that. We use in many languages a negative to mean positive, and that's how ichves has become in English to those Jews who know a little Yiddish, whatever, which I know very little. Yeah, I don't know. Ichves with a different intonation, thank you, means something, yeah, that's positive. Anyway, I don't have anything more to say, but if you have anything you want to say.
Why do the Persians hate the Jews so Israelis more than the Arabs?
Can I rephrase it? Do the Persians hate the Jews more than the Arabs?
Seems they want to destroy the whole country.
Let me ask you a question. How many times do we have, Americans don't really understand this because we grew up in where we vote and we have a democracy. How many times in history that someone has taken over the country? If someone takes over the country, you can't talk against them. I can tell you, I did a lot of lecturing in China, and I know that people privately had a lot of negative things to say against Xi Jinping. But do you think they ever said it? In public, someone who introduced me, and I knew subtly from her discussions, she introduced me when I was giving a lecture, and she quotes Xi Jinping in the beginning, she quotes him at the end. In the middle, she's talking about what I'm going to talk about and all that. But she covers her bases. Did she agree with everything that Xi Jinping did? Never told me, but I knew from subtle things that she said. And these people who grow up in tyrannical societies or where you got to be careful what you say, well, there are a few people in here who have, they know that you know, as what Natan Sharansky said, it's called doublespeak. You say one thing in public, and you think another thing in your head. Do the Iranian people hate Jews? Remember, we're traitors.
People, the government.
Why does the government?
They don't share a border.
Doesn't matter. What is the most important thing to the people who now rule Iran, who have for about 40 some odd years? What is Shiism? What is Shiite's biggest enemy in the world? No. Who said this? You're right. The Sunnis. Okay, now, what is the biggest group of Muslims in the world? Sunnis. They're about 85, 86%. We don't even know, but nobody can know these things. The Shiites are 12, who knows, something like that percent. Now I can't fight you directly. You're not a man. So I can't fight you directly because you're too powerful. So I'm going to go behind your back and play games and all that. What they are trying, their real enemy is the Sunnis. The Saudi government is their mortal enemy. The Sunnis, and remember the Arabs of Israel, the Muslims of Israel and the West Bank and, Yudav Shimon and all around, were never able to defeat Israel. But the Iranians say, we will show you how to defeat Israel. And then you will see that our way is right and you will become Shiites. Now, this sounds to us crazy. It doesn't matter what we think. It matters how they see the world. And I would only tell you this again, I don't care how our government, who the people running the whole Iran issue are Jews in the United States government right now. And there isn't a condition that Iran has come up with that the Americans haven't bowed down to. It's the Jews. I can give it. It's blank. Biden is not involved in the Iran issue. I'm not sure what issues he is involved in. Tony Blinken, who is halakhically 100% Jewish. Wendy Sherman, who is his deputy. Sherman is a nice Litvak name from what is today part of Belarus. That, Wendy Sherman, none of these people are married to Jews. Don't worry. What I mean by worry, I'm being unfortunately a bit cynical. Wendy Sherman was a social worker in a town next to where I lived before she started to work for Madeleine Albright and Obama and this guy. She's the one who gave in on the North Korea issue. We had an agreement, and of course the North Koreans were going to abide by it. So that's how they got nuclear weapons. She was the big macharet, I guess you could say, because she's a woman. She's married and has two sons. She has grandchildren. And she was also responsible. She was the lead negotiator for the JCPOA. That's the 2015 agreement, which just as the North Koreans got, if this agreement continues, and especially this one now, what they're going to, which is this agreement that they're negotiating, that we have bowed down to and accepted basically everything that the Iranians want. This agreement makes the JCPOA of 2015 look like fantastic. And it is Blinken, Wendy Sherman, and Robert Malley. Robert Malley, bless you, is the chief negotiator. Robert Malley's father, I might have said this earlier before, his father was born in Aleppo in Syria, grew up in Egypt, a Jew who hated being Jewish. He hated Zionism. He's a communist. Robert Malley's mother, her maiden name was Silverberg. And we're old enough to know here, there's something called the FLN, the people in Algeria that fought against the French. Chief was a big fighter with them against the French. So, and their son is Robert Malley. What type of household do you think he grew up in? Here's what we have. These are the three big machers on the Iran agreement. Blinken, Sherman, Malley. Malley I don't know well, but I've had a few conversations. I used to work for the government. And he is beautiful. All these people are beautiful State Department types. They're as sweet and kind and as deadly as you could imagine. They will talk to you, hold a glass of whiskey or whatever it is in their hand, while they're and smile and all that, as they're sticking the knife in your back. Yeah, this is the way it is. The Iranians take this one step further. The Iranians, when they negotiate, are far more sophisticated than the State Department. And what happens is they will be holding orange juice in their hands as they're behind the scenes, they're drinking alcohol. But in public, no, of course not. And none of them wear ties. You know why? That's Western. That's why they don't wear ties. Anyway, the Iranians are better than the State Department. They're not sticking the knife in your back. I'm drinking, you're having your orange juice, you're the Iranians, and they're sticking the knife right in your stomach in front of you. You're saying, oh my God, it feels so nice, it's warm. And these are the people, our people, who have negotiated, in quotes, whatever the word negotiated is, which conceded. I'm looking for a stronger word. Bowed down to kowtow, but there's even a word. Surrendered, submitted. The right word I'm looking for is submitted. These are, and they are Jews. And wait, how do we know what's going on there? Because there are a bunch of people who thought they went way too far, who are part of them, and they're out, they resigned, and they're spilling the beans of what was been going on. Yes.
What basically is the agreement, and is it a danger to Israel?
100% a danger to Israel.
What?
But it may be a blessing.
What is the agreement? What is the?
Please, I can only rely on the people who, forget the number of years, we don't.
The agreement was signed.
No, it was not signed. No, it's not. And again, Hashem has his way of handling things. Why? Who do the Americans appoint to be the chief intermediary with the Iranians? Because the Iranians refuse to sit with us. Russia. No, it's Russia. That's pretty good. Russia means evil one. And now the Russians, the Americans have submitted to everything, but the Russians want to throw one thing in there. Remove the sanctions because of the Ukraine thing. And Americans are now mad at the Russians. Why do we bow down to these people? Why? It's beyond me. We think that someone who speaks the holy language, and that is English, thinks like we do. But the Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese, they know how to use our culture, which is the way we do things, against us. And if we're nice and smile, if you look someone directly in the eyes, when you do that from our culture, if you're lying in America and you're lying, you have to look away a little. Somewhere you're giving an indication. But then they can look you right in the eyes, the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians, and smile as they're pulling the wool over your eyes. And that's where we are. What's the terms? We know what we know is from people, again, it basically, I don't have them off the top of my head. What matters is it's very dangerous for Israel. Why do I say this can be a blessing for Israel? The people running Israel right now basically are leftists. And they are the ones to say that Netanyahu supposedly was pro-Trump and all this. We are going to reestablish bipartisanship. And so what happens? No doubt there's a very small group of Democrats which is fanatically pro-Israel. But most of the Democratic Party's agenda is driven by the squad. We know how they're so pro-Israel, they want us dead. And so, okay, so these people, the leftists of Israel, that is Gantz, who is the defense minister, Lapid, who has zero experience with anything, he's an empty suit. And Bennett, I can only tell you that I know where his heart is, but I want to say facts. Anyway, these people think they're going to establish, or they try to establish, bipartisanship. They have seen over and over again, doesn't matter what I think, that it doesn't work. Now they're into the corner. They figured they could submit or go along with the Americans, and the Americans would protect them. Do you think that what's going on in Vienna protects Israel? It's absurd. That's Yiddish and I can't understand both of those. Yeah, look, this is our problem. Yes.
Getting back to the lecture.
Oh, yeah.
The actual monument or mausoleum, when does that date from?
The place, I have no idea. No one knows. There. See, look, it's interesting. You know, that little video was in French. And in French, the word for history and the word for a story is exactly the same thing. Histoire. And what it means in the end is you can see the joint meaning. Now, the word in Arabic for a date, for history is tarikh. No, tarikh, you know, from Hebrew. It means date. A date of, not a date that you eat, but a date of the calendar. And here's how the history works in the Middle East. I invent whatever fact I need. And I look at you in the face, I think you're talking with John Psaki, listening to her. If that's what she needs, and she looks you straight in the face, and now you feel on the defensive. We naturally, our Talmudic training, our whole culture, what are the facts here? That's not the way it works in that part of the world. So I'll give you the Arab answer to this. I was outside of Cairo. I remember in 1973, I was studying before the Yom Kippur War. I was studying in Cairo. And there was what's called the Awlad Ali. It was a tribal confederation. Awlad, Walad Yeled, boy, descendants of. Ali is a guy. And I asked some of these tribal, how are you descended from Ali? And after 6 generations, they got Ali. I'm the son of my father, my grandfather, the son of so-and-so who, when the great flood or whatever happened, did miraculous this. Who was the son of Ali or whatever? No, wait a minute, that's 5 minutes. Now, I know that the sons of Ali, that tribal confederation existed in the 16th century. And believe me, no one is living 100 and some odd years and then dying. So I asked them, and here is your answer to your question. I said, how long has the tribal confederation of the sons of Ali existed? Oh, min zaman. Min is from in Hebrew and Arabic. Zaman, mizman, from a long time ago. When is that date? Then. But see, for them, the past is a block. I need something that happened in the 19th century proves why something happened in the 16th century. No. We understand chronology. Something that happened in the 19th century didn't influence something, couldn't influence something in the 16th century. That's because you have 2 things, a Jewish mind and you're Western. I'm not complaining against this. All we're dealing here with is facts. Facts. You said, well, it's not true. That's why someone said earlier, how do we know that this is really the tombs of Esther and Mordechai? Well, we could try if someone would sneak in there and get some DNA from a bone behind the if it still exists. Believe me, we can do what we would be able to trace comparing with people who exist today. For example, yes, exactly. Look, I mean, the people of Southern Lebanon, the Christians especially, in my male DNA line, 2,000 years or so ago, they're the same. That's how you compare. Now, do we have a guy back then? No, but we know how DNA works. And the people, and they know much better than I do. And as there's certain people here, look, Bullock here knows who he is because of a DNA test. And he didn't know. Bullock, you're what, 82 or something like that? No, I told him maybe a military secret. That's how he met his first cousin in Israel, which nobody knew anybody survived. And it's a beautiful thing. And the other thing you could say, and who am I to understand Hashem's mind? For DNA, just when the Jewish people is falling apart, if we get how to deal with DNA. Is this going to be a reason or help to get people to bring them home? From a lot of people that I know who have done DNA tests, the answer seems to be, it is a string or a rubber band that helps pull you back. Anything that will make Jews more Jewish is good.
But the question is, there's so many intermarriages and everything, that's just what we're gonna do. How to find one, because we have the problem with Ukraine now. There's a Jew in the country, so there's everybody.
No, wait, okay. Halacha is one thing. I'm not getting into, I'm not a halacha expert. We have a few here.
No,
You really know much better than I do.
Because of the DNA.
Yes.
How could you find out? If you-
Because watch this. Okay, I'm a pure Litvak, whatever that is.
Okay.
Lithuania, Belarus, Eastern Poland, Southern Latvia. No, but what's my point? Okay, we have there are a lot of people who have taken DNA tests who are from different places, and we can compare, and we know approximately how often things change. And so I'm from Sicily, my father's line about 600 years ago. How does a Litvak come from Sicily? But wow, we compare people who even in Sicily have traditions that their family was originally Jewish before the Inquisition, because Sicily was part of the Spanish kingdom. So the laws of the Inquisition also were in Italy. We can do this. We can do this galore. Without DNA, how do we know? Look, if I can use Bolek as an example, we have his DNA. This woman in Israel, they did her DNA. And what happens? It ends up, we know where siblings are, how much they share in common. We know how first cousins once removed, second cousins, we can show these things. And in Bolek's case, we had and Bolek did know his original name, at least the spelling was a little different and the pronunciation. But what happened was, as a result of comparing all sorts of things together, this woman whom Bolek met, it was in November, I think, for the first time in his life, she and he are clearly from the DNA. He share first cousin, whatever. There was another family that Bolek thought maybe he was part of before with the same family name. It ends up their DNA is not first cousins, but much further away. He is related to the family he thought he was. DNA does all these things. That's how it works. And I want to tell you, the Jews of Iran, would you care to hazard a guess of how far back, and male lines are much easier to do than female lines. How far back are we related, we Ashkenazi Jews, let's say, to the Jews of Iran?
2,000 years.
Go on, get more specific.
The time of the first temple.
The time of the first temple. You are right. You would be amazed. Hashem gives us all these tools, DNA, whatever it is, and it's our job to use them. We do what we can. I had all sorts of thoughts. I used to give a lot of lectures on DNA, and I published on it. And I kept saying way back when, I've been doing this since the mid-90s on DNA. I said, this is what we know today. And we may know more, it may be different. And there have been things that I thought in the past that I don't now because we know more. Hashem gives these things, he gives us all these tools. He gives us the internet. It's neutral. It's our job to use it wisely. That's all. They're tools.
Harold,
Enough.
what is the first record of this tomb?
Oh, min zaman. From time immemorial.
But I'm saying,
I don't know.
Western historians.
Oh, Western? Oh, there were a lot of people who've been out there seeing it already in
200 years, 300 years?
something like that. I'm sure it existed before. Ken, you?
I just want to thank you and thank everyone for participating and much appreciated on your engagement and speaking for.
You're welcome, man. Hi, Ted. Hi, back there.
Next year.
Something like that. I didn't expect to be doing the last 2 years. I mean, the last 2 things. What the hell, you know? You look like you were having a good time because you were laughing. You don't know what I was drinking. Oh, okay. Man, you start early.
Most expressions.
Huh? No. What? No, I might have.
That's another example. Just one or two examples. People use it, don't realize it's bad.
Okay. Another day. Yeah. I didn't know that. Do you, if you, tomorrow, could you, send it, please send it to me? In my soul knows this, but I.
It's a wonderful book.
Thank you very much. Y con la distancia, lo ven que lo ven.
Can you forward this to me? My
Email or phone number?
doesn't matter.
I'll send it to you by email.
My family name is Rhode, spelled like the state Rhode Island. H-O-D. Nonetheless, in fact, but not wrong. R-H-O-D-E, that's Rhode Island, dot, Harold. At gmail.com. No, I'm good with that.
What is this book? It gives you the basics.
It doesn't, it doesn't, it's Gmail. You have to figure out-
Oh.
But, Thank you. But, yes. You know, it was going to ask you something, just it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Excellent. How long were your parents from this country?
For 5 generations.
Oh, your country.
It was a great, great, great grandparent.
My grandfather.
One of his wives is somehow related to the first one. The only reason he survived is he was going out on a fundraising trip. He was abroad when this happened. And that's his family's first one. Watch this, but I'm showing you friend of mine in Israel. His wife's grandmother was the youngest of 11 children. That is in southwestern Poland. She and one of her older sisters survived later Israel. Right? They went to the home. Everybody else is kept the entire extended family. The woman marries, the younger one marries in Israel to an Ashkenazi guy. They have a daughter, totally Ashkenazi, whatever it looks like that. That girl marries an Iraqi, the Iraqi guy, right? Or his mother. What happened? They have a daughter. The daughter, and he's just dark eyes. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Please, what happened? They have a daughter, and the daughter has a very strange type of curly hair, and green eyes. Nobody in the family had this, and it looks like with this dark Iraqi in the section, something's a little wrong with the story. The older sister of the grandmother of the grandmother of the kid comes much older, and therefore know a lot more about like the family's life in Poland. Says she sees the baby, and she's screaming and yelling and crying. What's this all about? Us? No. What's going on here? The older sister says, the grandmother of the baby, do you remember Tanta? Let's call her Chaya. I don't know. Do you remember Tanta Chaya? I don't remember the name, but no. She had this type of hair. Hashem doesn't forget anybody. It comes through in the DNA. You never know. You never know.
You never know in life that is true. Because you know what Hashem is, parents have a business in life. As you read the books, as you read the book, and I think those are two words that I know because of it. And this motion is my God. The game grade. Yes. But you have to watch what you say. But Lithuanian is such a difficult language.
No, I'm
They
not
taught me
Lithuanian.
they taught me two words. Look, the customer doesn't take anything into his pocket and get and money. Because if they pay, they do not pay. So those are the two words that I need to say. But I know other in Russian. I think I have an English.
Yes, yes.
Oh my God. That's what it is. That's what it is. But it's nice.
Yes.
That's life. Okay, try to do, take care.
Yeah. Oh. Como nouvelle pour first service là. First service like you think to put in the rubber washers.
Done.
On the first one.
Yes. Then you notice there, the whole thing from A to B is it. And he's good. He did shingles, shingle element. It's my wife, and my wife, you know, as you know, Cheryl's not happy, you're not happy. Please, just one thing, I have a,
Yes.
I just want to get from my, do you need a ride home?
No.
Um, uh, okay, everything on mine.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Oh, boy.
I didn't like the way you were heading on, first illogical, and then you didn't want to get into your last term.
You know what I was doing then?
Yeah,
That's what we called it.
that's what I didn't want.
That's what we did. I was there all the time.
It's a great resource.
Oh my God, the library is awesome. Yes.
No more class upstairs, no more. Finish?
Finished. To the field, right?
I mean, next one, we nothing.
I don't think so, not for now.
Okay.
Okay. With my mind wasn't used to speak those songs. So. I had friends studying there. So much of it comes from. The people who found it. My view is exactly what it was. Yeah, there's a lot of the area because they were traders. Central Asia. By the time Halloween was supposed, it was he went to architecture. Work himself with his body. Never put a bike back for Thursday, and they had to go to India, and he went there, and that was where they looked it up. Again, no person, I do not know. The English takes so much of its cultural words on the menu, for example. Here it's cheese, payola is onion. You see, it's one word, which is unbelievably different. The word for dog, for sag. When I saw sag on the menu, I said, oh my God. That's why sometimes words have different. No, my thoughts, you know, if we could have. You found it.
But just leave that. Just leave the TV and the microphone and everything, because tomorrow they're gonna do it in here, you said. I'm gonna use the TV, he's gonna use the TV tomorrow, when somebody from CBC. So I'm gonna leave it set up, I'll turn it off, but he'll probably want the microphone too, right?
Yes,
So leave it, just leave it.
yeah, I should, I'll plug it in tomorrow.
Sounds good.
I'll do.
So I'll turn it off, but leave it up here.
Yeah.